All right, guys, this is John Speed from johnspeedbooks.com, and I just want to do something a little bit different today and show you some books that I picked up over the weekend. I have picked these up from 3 different sources, and I want to talk to you about the sources and how you can find good books from these sources if you know what you're looking for. Um, so I think what I'll do is I'll start with these 2 books right here. This one is Custer in 76, Walter Camp's Notes on the Custer Fight. I believe what this is a diary published about the final battle there with Custer at Little Bighorn. And so this was one of his troops, and he talks about the Battle of Little Bighorn. I believe that's what's happening here in this book. It's published in Utah at Brigham Young University Press. I believe it's a first edition. They don't have a number line. Oftentimes university presses don't have a number line, and as long as you don't see, there's a number line there, but I don't think that is like how they determine the first edition. Usually with university presses, as long as you don't see like second printing on or second edition or something on the copyright page, is a first edition. I believe that's what this is. The original price is up there in the corner on the dust jacket, so it's not price clipped. It's in pretty nice condition. The only problem with it is that the corners are bumped. You can see there, and the top corners are bumped as well. But that's about it. There's some toning to the jacket. Tiny little stain right here. I think generally you're calling it probably very good condition, a very good dust jacket. And so, this book, stuff that's on Western Americana, is always hot. It's a collectible thing. Not quite as collectible as it used to be in the 1990s. It seems like everybody was going after Western Americana, but I would still guess that this book would sell somewhere around the $15 to $20 range. I have not looked it up. Maybe it could go higher, but my guess is $15 to $20 for that one. I paid $5 for it. The main reason I got it at all was to kind of make up for this one. Both of these I purchased, by the way, at an antique mall here in Texas. And so I got that one because I knew I was getting this one, and this one's like a $5 book. And when you pay with a credit card, I generally don't like to, just have $10 or $5 to put on a credit card when I'm at an antique mall. They've got expenses running a credit card. So I try to get at least $10 worth of stuff. And that book seems interesting enough to justify purchasing it. This one's really kind of special. It's not anything I've ever seen before. Well, let's start in the back because it's Chinese. It's Chinese text. We have an inscription here. Blanche Ray Walker. Not sure what that says. Kaifeng. Maybe Kaifeng Fu. Hunan, China. And so you've got a list of scripture references here, judging from where they are in the Gospels. They probably have to do with the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Okay? Here, you've got Chinese text. You look at the binding, it's sewn. This is hand sewn, probably done by this missionary. The wraps on the back here, we discover that these wraps were originally part of maybe a bank book from the German Asiatic Bank. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. These wraps were part of, but I'm guessing this missionary used them to kind of cover up this printed material. I don't know if this is water damage that's causing it, but the pages are sticking together in clumps, and I do think maybe the water damage is causing that. My guess, I don't know Chinese at all. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on this, try to find somebody. I think these are sticking together because of the water damage. But I'm thinking what this is some kind of gospel. It might be a Gospel of John. I can't believe that it's all the Gospels. Perhaps. I can't imagine that. It can't possibly be, but I think it's maybe like the Gospel of John in Chinese, and this may have been used for evangelism by this missionary here who lived in Hunan, China. The value on something like this is really difficult to ascertain. You've got to figure out exactly what it is to begin with. And then you have to do a little bit of research on this person, Blanche Ray Walker. I did a quick search on her and didn't turn up very much using DuckDuckGo. I'll probably use Google and see what else I can turn up and throw a few other search terms in there to try to find out if this was a missionary to China and when she was there. This could be very interesting if it was around the time of World War II. It would bring some added value to it. I didn't do any research on the Boxer Rebellion before I did this video, if this was prior or during the time of, when she was a missionary during the time of the Boxer Rebellion, then that brings some more interest to the book, because, that's essentially when the missionaries to China got removed as the communists came in and came to power. So I'm not really sure if that's what it is, and if this missionary turns out to be somebody interesting at an interesting time in China, and this turns out to be a text that's used for evangelism, a gospel, something like that. It's really almost a museum piece that testifies to what happened at that time, if that's what it is. I do suspect, obviously, you probably figured out by now, I suspect that's what it might be. But that's a long shot. It's very worn, water damage. If these pages are sticking together, I can get them apart with a very sharp knife, and it won't damage it. Got to do it very carefully, but that can be fixed, and they can be opened. So this is really kind of the find of the antique mall that I was in. This was in a glass cabinet. I couldn't see the price. Anything like this just looks interesting. I saw the sewn binding. I thought, well, I asked them to open it up. They opened it up. They showed it to me. I saw the inscription. I thought, well, $5. I'll give it a shot. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's the kind of thing that if it turns out to be what I think it is, it could end up, like in a university collection, or who knows, maybe even a museum somewhere. So those two things were things I found in an antique mall. These next two items are not for sale. These are both going into my library, and I'll explain why. This is a book about the 11th edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, Everything Explained That Is Explainable. And I'm about 4 chapters into it already, and it's excellent. The Encyclopedia Britannica, the 11th edition, is still considered the best edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's because 1910, 1911, they brought together a group of scholars to do that edition of the encyclopedia that were second to none, and they've never been topped since then. Now, obviously, the material is dated, but the contributors who wrote the articles in the 11th edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica you'll never get a group together like that again. And so that was really the time of some great encyclopedias and some great Bible dictionaries. Right around the same time, a guy named Hastings was putting out his Dictionary of the Bible, and then his Dictionary of Christ and the Gospels, and Dictionary of the Apostolic Church. And so it was just one of several important dictionaries and encyclopedias that came out. I have the 11th edition in my office. I use it from time to time. It really is fantastically good. So this is a story of how they created that. I'm about 40 pages into it so far. It's the first edition. It's got a remainder mark on the bottom edge. The publishers will put those ink marker dots on the bottom edge of the text. These books probably went out to stores somewhere. They didn't sell. They were sent back to the publisher. When they did that, they put the remainder marks on it, and then they go out to remainder stores, and they get sold for just a fraction of what the original price was. Half Price Books gets a lot of books that way, and that's where I got this one, Half Price Books. So that's going into my library because it'll go right next to my 11th edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica. This one is on my want list, the Westminster Dictionary of Christian Theology, edited by Alan Richardson and John Bowden. This is the newer edition from the 1980s. Richardson did the original in the 1960s. After I've read the introductory material, I'll probably look for the one with Richardson's, from the 1960s, because that one seems like it would be more conservative than this one, looking through the list of scholars. However, there's some great articles in here, things that'll be helpful for my research and, that sort of thing. So that's going in my library. So I'm happy about those two finds, but that's more for personal reasons, not for resale. We'll get back to resale here. The rest of these items over here to my left, these all were purchased at an auction. Now, a lot of country auctions, like where I picked this up, they sell all kinds of things. They'll often sell coins, old coins. They'll sell antiques, furniture, and they'll just sell run-of-the-mill estate type stuff that you would see it in an estate sale. Occasionally you'll find books. It's not very often at this auction that they have books, but this past auction they did. And I was going in there to pick up a bookshelf actually that Kim bought for our daughter Veronica, and I was looking at the material for the next auction last week and saw these items and thought, well, I'll put bids in on them and see what happens. Let me just deal with the less consequential one first. This was one lot, and what these are books on military history. Soldier's Manual of Common Tasks, 1994. It's just a guidebook for military, for the Army, and it just tells them how to do the different things they need to do. It's not in great shape. It's really beat up, dog-eared. What is that? Yeah, I got some surface peeling there and stuff. It's been worn. It's only going to be worth $5 or $6, if that. Not even sure I'm going to sell it. I might give that to my boys. An interesting title on the Panzers, the tank divisions of Hitler's during World War II. I think what happened here, these probably all belong to a guy who is into military modeling. A lot of times this is the kind of stuff that they will get. It's all World War II related. U.S. Army Combat Equipments, 1910 to 88. So that's not just World War II, but it shows you, this is a British publication, Osprey, and it shows you how they use their material, how they use the material, and and the coloring and that sort of thing. A lot of times, guys who are into military modeling will get these things. More stuff on the Panzer divisions. These things here in our bookstore we would have sold for like maybe $8 a piece. This one is a reprint. That one would probably get like $8. Modern Land Combat, these are pretty common. They're not rare, but you know, people again that are into all that stuff, either military history or into military modeling, they like to have it. This one might get $8 or $9. There's nothing here that's rare is the point, but when you add it all up, 8, 16, $32, and the $5 book over there, $37. I paid $5 for the lot. The Onion presents Our Dumb Century, 100 Years of Headlines from America's Finest News Source. You know, The Onion's all about satire. And cute little mouse crushed to death by petting. Heels kicked up across nation. President calls for calm. Women get the vote and restrooms. Gangsters pass 18th Amendment. It's just humor. This kind of thing's really, it's got stains and stuff. It's not worth much, maybe a few dollars. So for $5, you know, I don't know, close to $40 worth of books. And I don't have anybody in particular for them, but I'll probably list them online and see what happens. This one is really special. Let's see if I can do this. It's a leather-bound, full leather, folio size volume, and this was part of a set originally. Published. It was about British sports and sportsmen. Every volume was about a different subject. This volume includes modern commerce, motoring, aviation. It's not all that it includes, but that's the idea. It's really a gorgeous book. You can see, well, I'll show you some parts of the book. These are called marbled end papers. It's a special process where a nice paper is, they put it in a bath, some chemicals, some dyes. And then what they do, they get that red dye going first, and then you see the black in there. They put maybe some streaks of black across there with a comb. They'll streak it, or they'll sprinkle it, and then they'll lay it in there and let it dry, and then they'll do the gold and do that. It's quite a process. I tried to learn how to do it one time. It's a mess. I couldn't do it. And then here, along the edges, these are called dentelles, and just beautiful gold work on the inside of the front paste down, the edges of the front paste down. Gives you an idea of the quality. It is gilt on all edges of the text, and this is a beautiful production. There's no date on it, but I'm going to guess 1930s. This edition is limited to 1,000 copies, of which this is number 911. So only 1,000 copies made. People collect what's known as transportation, books about transportation. So books about ships, trains, books about airplanes, railroads. Okay, very collectible thing. This set, each volume dealt with a different thing. This is the volume on transportation. There's also a volume on fishing, a volume on hunting, things like that. Somebody who collects transportation books, most times people just want to get the whole set, right? They want the complete set. Now, if you got the complete set of this, I think it's like 14 volumes. If you had the complete set, it would sell somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. People do buy the individual volumes, and you don't see this one very often. Transport, motoring, and aviation. What I've done, well, I'll show you the title page. It's published by The Sporting Life, which is probably it's a magazine over there. You see the quality of the engravings. These are sepia engravings. Very, very nice. Very high quality. This is probably printed in the 1930s, I'm guessing. I'll put some markers in here, well, gospel tracts as markers, to show you some of the things that are in the book and talked about in the book. There is a car on Daytona Beach in 1927. This is one depicting a machine shop. Trying to show you, how Great Britain became a major empire in industrialization. This one is a neat car. Sunbeam racing car, 1922. I like that one. Just the design. A Leyland early passenger vehicle. Just gives you an idea what's talked about here. That's what I'm showing you the stuff for. And then there's these portraits, these sepia portraits of people who were instrumental in these areas, in these fields. Sir Malcolm Campbell's original Bluebird car. An airplane here, interesting looking one. The Handley Page airliner, Hannibal. Kind of a cross between a biplane and a passenger jet kind of thing. This one is a seaplane kind of thing. A Blackburn all-metal flying boat. Aris III with Rolls-Royce Condor engines. There's a Zeppelin. Zeppelins are very cool. Airship R101, leaving the mooring mast at Cardington on its final flight before leaving for India. Last one I'm going to show you here. Not that guy, but this 12-cylinder, 350 horsepower Sunbeam car. That one reached, at that time, a world record breaking speed of 150 miles an hour. So this book that's the flavor of it. Condition is really very nice. The only problem with it, and this is fixable, we will fix it. I think it's fixable. It might not be. There's some stains here on the back cover. I've got some things I can do to try to bring those stains out. I'm not going to tell you what that is. It's a trade secret. I do have some leather conditioner that I can use to treat the binding. And once it's cleaned up and treated, I'm going to say that we can probably get it to near fine condition. What did I pay for it? I got it for $25 at auction. Basically, I believe from my research that I did do online on this before I made my bid, that we can probably get maybe $150 for it. And that's being conservative. Could probably go to $200 for it. So that's a good find. So the two best finds over the weekend, or my weekend anyway, this Chinese item that I think may be a testament to the work of missions in China right around the early 20th century. And then British Sports and Sportsman, the volume on transportation. So yeah, book people may get a kick out of this. Everybody else is going to think it's boring. But there are books out there and auctions, country auctions. Every now and then you can find some good stuff for fairly cheap. But there are, and even in antique malls, right now is a good time to buy. A lot of people in the antique malls I noticed are running sales because of the COVID thing. There hasn't been much going on in sales over the last couple of months. So you can get some bargains right now. It's a buyer's market right now. And so, that's the size of it. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please subscribe. We're going to try to keep putting out bookish videos on a fairly regular basis. Thanks for tuning into this, and I hope you guys have a great night.